Will you listen to my story? A story that begins like many others you might have heard. One night, a couple was driving home on a highway at night through countryside. Mia and her girlfriend Claire were trying to return home after a friend's birthday party. The long, lonely stretch of road was only broken up occasionally by farmhouses. As Claire was driving, a thunderstorm came crashing down on them. They could barely see through the rain as they passed a darkened house with no trespassing signs. Just as Claire tried focusing on the road in front of the car again, they began to hurtle-plane on the wet road. She tried to get control of the car, but the car spun out and crashed into a boulder on the side of the road. Mia screamed as she was thrown into the car door, smacking her head into the window. As the ringing in her ears let up, Mia finally heard Claire frantically asking if she was okay. Mia was bleeding from a cut on her head, and her arm hurt so bad she could barely catch her breath. Claire took off her jacket and pressed it against the cut on Mia's head. When the bleeding wouldn't stop, Claire decided to go back to the house they passed to see if anyone there would help. Through her pain, Mia begged Claire to stay and wait for another car to pass. Something in her gut was telling her to stay away from that house. But the blood flowing from her head strengthened Claire's resolve to go seek help. She covered Mia with a blanket and raced into the storm, shutting the dented car door behind her with a final click. Mia drifted in a daze. Something at the back of her mind was making her uneasy. She slid down to the floor and put the blanket over her head. Feeling safer in the enclosed darkness, she allowed the weariness caused by her wounds to take over and fell asleep. Mia wasn't sure what woke her or how long it's been. She strained her eyes and ears, but heard nothing save for the soft thudding of the rain, and no light shone through the blanket. If Claire had arrived with the help, there would be noise and lights and voices. But she heard nothing but the swish of rain and an occasional thumping noise she thought came from the rubbing of branches in a tree in the wind. The sound should have been comforting, but it was not. Goosebumps crawled across her arms, and she almost ceased breathing as some deep part of her inner mind instructed her to freeze and not make a sound. She didn't know how long fear kept her immobile. But suddenly the raw terror ceased, replaced by cold shivers of apprehension and a sinking feeling in her stomach that had nothing to do with her injuries. Something terrible had happened, fear adding yet more fatigue to her already wounded body. She tried to talk herself out of the feeling, saying it was just her sore head making her imagine things. Somewhat comforted by this thought, she dozed again, only vaguely aware of a new sound that had not been there before. A soft thud sound, as if something was gently tapping the roof. Thud, thud, pattering of rain. Thud, thud, pattering of rain. Mia wasn't sure how long she'd been unconscious when she was woken up by a bright light blazing through the window of the car and the sound of male voices exclaiming in horror. A door was wrenched open, and someone crawled inside. Sick with dread, Mia lifted her head and was greeted with the sight of a cop. He asked if she was all right, and then turned over his shoulder to call for help. Mia told the officer her story and begged them to look for Claire. They avoided answering her pleas and called for the paramedics. As they carried her carefully up the slope of the ditch, Mia looked back at the car and saw a grotesque figure hanging from a branch of the tree by the car. For a moment, her brain couldn't process what she was seeing in the bright lights of the police cars. Then she heard that thud sound as the foot of the figure scraped the top of the totaled car. She started screaming and screaming in horror. One of the police officers tried to block her view, and a paramedic fumbled for a sedative as her mind finally registered what she had seen. Claire's mangled, dead body was hanging from the tree just above the car, and nailed to her chest was a no trespassing sign. Let this be a warning of what you do in the dark.